Hello, Meoni here, and I have a bit of a news video for you today. I noticed on Reddit and through other sources that Daum Korea had a conference recently, whereupon they noted down the future plans for the game. Now, as you may or may not know, we're looking at the Valencia update and the Blader, Kunoichi, Plum and Ninja classes in or before this summer in NA and EU. Now, those patches will be pretty big. But the plans for the Korean game are incredibly exciting, and will become even more exciting the closer our version of Black Desert gets to being on the same time schedule as Korea. Daum Europe, the publishers for Pearl Abyss in the EU and NA, are quoted to having said they want to push patches both minor and major each and every month. That's a considerable amount of content, and with the new ethos on all updates for the game being 3, anyone who had doubts on the release frequency for our version of the game can rest fairly easily. Anyhow, the main focus of this video was to talk about the new content coming to Black Desert Korea this summer and eventually our version in the far future. Firstly, let's talk about new zones. Yay! So as we all know, we recently got Medea patch in NA and EU, which added about 30% of the game, including Medea itself. The content brought with it the large chain of islands to the north of Velia, etc. The Valencia patch will roughly bring a desert the size of the release land we have right now, that's Medea and Calfian, etc. all together, basically doubling the size of the playable world. In the Korean version, the summer patch, they will be adding a serious amount of content. Firstly, the conference picked up on new landmasses that they want to focus on for the next areas, and these include the ocean. Yep. An entire section north of Velia where the islands are. Expand that upwards northwest and you have an entire naval zone completely focused on being vast and unconquerable. Reportedly, like the desert, you will not be able to use the map in this area without select equipment to do so, focusing on piracy and navigation outside the usual means. This technology is already present in Valencia Desert, whereupon players had to create a compass item to navigate the desert at all. The entire ocean is said to hold an entire separate continent to the far northwest, only accessible via boats. This will of course mean they will be adding new ships. There was talk of galleons and merchant vessels doing runs across the ocean, which is exciting stuff. Various natural disasters are also mentioned, such as whirlpools and sea tornadoes, not to mention the actual life that lives in the sea as well. The sailing skill will also be added to life skills, which alters your ability to sail naturally, and which is increased, funnily enough, by sailing. This entire section will include island siege battles, naval warfare, and underwater exploration. Underwater content with all manner of beasties and things to discover. The mouth practically waters of the idea of populated underwater sections. That aside, the technology implemented in current boats as we know them right now will likely be overhauled to make for better seafaring adventures. They're a bit buggy if you've ever done auto-pathing back from a fishing trip. The ocean is set to be double the size of the continent we are currently playing on, all without loading screens, meaning this will be a technological feat unlike none other I've seen in any other game. Underwater content will involve the creation of underwater diving equipment, potentially through crafting skills such as blacksmithing, etc. We're not sure yet. And the fun does not stop there. The conference also outlined a new zone set for this content, starting in summer and going onwards. Firstly, they will be adding a new zone called Sylvia Camara, which is where the Sylvia Elves are said to come from, of which the Ranger class is based upon. This area is light and pretty and green and mimics Rivendell from Lord of the Rings in style. Conversely, within the same region, there's an area that's got corrupted right next to it where the basically the Dark Elves are supposed to come from. This is where we get a new class/race. That's right, a new class and race. Not much is known about what the class would be, however the race will be Dark Elf. There is a bit of concept art on the screen right now which sounds and looks incredible, as you might notice. Then later on, apparently the zone east of this one, directly below the Heidel etc. sort of region, is the Dwarven homeland that hasn't got a name yet. Supposedly it's going to be snow covered and rich with snow-top mountains and deep snow that involves certain mechanics to warm yourself up, full of branching stories with the dwarves, giants and elves that are all apparently fighting it out in their own collective storylines. Additionally to all this madness is the final announcement of the awakenings for the missing classes. If you've kept up with this, you'll know that several of the classes have had their awakenings released in Korea, the latest one being that of the Valkyrie's Lance. If you don't know what awakenings are, they're separate class styles impacted by the weapons the class will equip. For example, the Berserker one gets a hand cannon by equipping it. He basically gets a completely different playstyle, original to that class, and new skills, new abilities, and it replaces the ones on his bars. It's pretty cool. The Ninja Awakening apparently will be 5 separate swords that he switches between, very anime style. Apparently mentioned that he'll be able to use all 5 swords at the same time, so employing magic or sort of crouching tiger, hidden dragon type combat types, which is pretty awesome if you think about it. Next up, Kunoichi, which is the female ninja, gets herself a giant throwable chakram, nearly the same size of her body in this art here. This thing looks devastating and apparently increases her acrobatic movements. We'll see about that. Wizards will use golems and spirits as their awakening and will switch to fire and water magic exclusively, and apparently witches will have the same golems and spirit use, so basically pets, but instead will focus fully on earth and electricity magic skills, so power unlimited quotes are abound. Next up, down the bottom of this exhausting list of conference details was the mention of mounts. Now, other than the current maximum tier of horse in Korea being tier 8, and we'll be getting that with the Valencia update later this year, this summer in Korea they will be raised to tier 9 mounts, bringing with that a new sort of overhauled mount system, including new attack skills for mounts that can actually be used in combat, featuring the use of mounted combat in sieges, etc. Additionally, we were teased a picture of, and a pretty small mention of this. Apparently there will be a Pegasus mount. This will be able to glide but not fly, so similar to the Arcage one, dare I mention Arcage's name, and will not take any falling damage. And then there was a mention of unicorns as well, that would debuff enemies and have a charge attack that would use their horn to penetrate armor or siege defenses. These sound like fairly strong siege mounts if this goes ahead, and I imagine the method of obtaining them would be quite an ordeal. Hopefully not from a cash shop, hopefully, but you know, we never know. Other mentions in this conference included cooperative content, inverted commas, whatever that means, supposedly designed for small groups of players, 2 to 3, so possibly dungeons, who knows? Maybe the first instance stuff? I hope not. I'm loving the open world nature. And apparently the ability to use a boat as a guild house to make it easier for those who cannot lay claim onto land. Maybe there are big guilds on your server and you just can't get a guild house. Well, now you can get one on your boat. So I guess that's kind of like overly emphasizing the idea of a pirate's life and sort of pushing people into this naval sort of content. Strangely, the use of in-game voice chat was mentioned. Now, I've seen this in many other MMOs, including World of Warcraft when it first came out, believe it or not. I don't know if you know that, but it's still actually in the game. I'm not sure it works. But, you know, the majority of players these days use Ventrilo or TeamSpeak or, you know, all of the other stuff. Or do they? I don't know. Do you still use in-game functions in these games, or do you still use TeamSpeak or even Skype, you know? But I can imagine that voice chat would probably lag the game out a little bit, and they perhaps don't want to add too much to this. Apparently they're going to be working on a revised wanted and bounty system with possible jail cells. No one really truly knows anything about that yet, but they mentioned it nonetheless. Either way, today is a pretty exhausting and exciting day for news concerning Black Desert. Hopefully this will whet your appetite for some Black Desert-y goodness. I will of course list all of the sources for today's information in the description of this video, so you can go and analyze them yourself without calling me out on anything. It's all there. Basically I'm just reading stuff and putting it into this video. All credit goes to the original people, such as Steparu.com, or, you know, on Reddit. I don't lay claim to learning this myself. A lot of talented people are translating information and I'm making a video on it. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. This is kind of a new little feature. I want to do news on Black Desert as well as content. We're probably going to be looking at a news segment every sort of Saturday if I can get around to doing that. Hopefully you enjoy that. Leave some comments below. Tell me what you think, what you're most excited for in the future of Black Desert Online, and I will see you next time.